Bro, this sidewalk is filled with shit. Like, this is ridiculous.
Stop everything and look at the state of these streets. While officials are out here demanding record-breaking tax hikes, this is what the actual residents are stepping over every single day. The contrast is absolutely wild.
Ridiculous. I'm scared I'm gonna step in it. But yo, I ain't never seen no shit like that.
Wait, did you catch the sheer volume of that? You're looking at a city that just unveiled a record-breaking budget, yet the basic infrastructure and cleanliness look like a total disaster zone. It's a classic case of pay more, get less. Imagine being a homeowner in this neighborhood, hearing that your property taxes are about to spike by nearly 10%, and then walking out your front door to see this. It's not just a lack of maintenance, it's a total breakdown of the social contract. The person filming this is clearly hit with the reality that the money isn't going where it's supposed to. We're seeing a massive shift where the wealthy that politicians claim to target are just leaving for places like Florida, leaving the middle class to foot the bill for streets that look like this. It's a visual representation of a policy failure that words just can't cover.
I'm just going to say she's a traitor. You know, she was born in America, she raised in America, lives in America, and choose to compete against her own country for literally the worst human rights, abuser on the planet, China. She built her fame in a free country and then choose to represent an authoritarian regime, which, while chasing endorsement deals, linked by watching dog groups and mass detention and forced labor camps. She chose to play for a country literally responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of his own people, and literally running a concentration camp while we are talking. And instead of the country where she was born and given the opportunity. So you don't just get to enjoy freedom of US as citizenship while acting literally a global PR asset for the Chinese Communist Party. So she should definitely.
Look at the intensity in Enes Kanter's face here. He isn't holding back a single bit. He's pointing out the massive contradiction of someone building their entire platform, their fame, and their training on American soil, only to turn around and represent a regime that is actively hostile to those very values. It's a high-stakes conversation about loyalty versus branding. You see, Kanter knows the cost of speaking out firsthand. He's lost his career over these principles. So when he sees Eileen Gu cashing in on massive endorsement deals while acting as a PR asset for the CCP, it strikes a deep chord. He's highlighting that she didn't just pick another team. She chose to be a global face for a country with one of the worst human rights records on the planet. It's not just about sports anymore. It's about the ethics of who you choose to empower when the whole world is watching.
USA has been racking up medals on several fronts, now just behind Norway and Italy in terms of totals. But as we've seen, some American athletes have been hesitant to represent their country this year, including controversial freestyle skier Eileen Gu. The American-born three-time gold medalist is once again competing for China. That's her mother's country of origin in halfpipe, slopestyle, and big air events. Now, she won 2 golds in Beijing back in 2022, but she fell short this time around, settling for silver times over, including in yesterday's women's free.
Did you see the graphic that flashed by earlier? She's reportedly pulling in over $20 million a year in brand deals. That puts her in the stratosphere of athlete earnings, but it's the source of that income that has everyone fired up. She's essentially trying to play both sides of the fence. On one hand, she's the American born and raised superstar, and on the other, she's the pride of China. But when the results didn't go her way this time, the narrative shifted toward making excuses about training time and resources. It's a fascinating study in how woke branding often collides with cold, hard geopolitical reality. People are starting to ask, at what point does representing your heritage cross the line into becoming a literal paid spokesperson for an adversary. The optics of her wearing that Chinese uniform while enjoying the freedoms of her U.S. citizenship are becoming a major point of friction for fans who value national loyalty.
For those who have watched budget after budget, it is tempting to assume that we are engaging in the same dance as our predecessors. Let me assure you, nothing about this is typical. That's why our solutions won't be either. There are two paths to bridge this gap. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. The onus for resolving this crisis should not be placed on the backs of working and middle-class New Yorkers. If we do not fix this structural imbalance and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return, year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control.
Pay close attention to the phrasing he uses here, calling this a path of last resort. It's a very specific political tactic. By framing a nearly 10% tax hike as an unavoidable tragedy, he's trying to deflect the blame from the spending choices that led here. He mentions resolving the crisis, but look at the fine print on those slides. They've spent billions on migrant costs and are now draining the rainy day fund by a cool $1 billion. This is the math of a city that is running out of other people's money. When he says the burden shouldn't be on the working class, but then implements a property tax hike that will inevitably raise rents for those exact same people, the logic completely falls apart. It's a con job wrapped in a suit. Residents are being told they have to sacrifice more while the city's basic services, like the streets we saw earlier, continue to decline. High stakes, higher taxes, and a whole lot of questions. What's your take on the loyalties of these modern athletes? Drop a comment below and let's get into it.